The Skyline has always been a cornerstone in Nissan's lineup. Not every model can boast a bloodline dating back to 1957. However, there are 3 versions across 3 generations that were produced in less than 1,000 units over a span of 10 years. If you haven't heard about Autech Skylines, here they are. In 1986, Autech, a Nissan subsidiary, initially revealed their first model based on the Nissan Leopard. The car was created with a bit of Italian help from Zagato guys, and well, it had its unique in and exterior, which is quite unconventional. So they decided to focus on enhancing cars from the dealership, which seemed like a better option. No judgment here, understanding only. And when a fresh in-factory startup was choosing a first factory car to work on, the choice was quite obvious. The R31 GTS Skyline became the first model, factory-tuned by Autech. The R31 is Nissan Skyline's 7th generation.
Let's go Highway 88, Nissan New Skyline.
It debuted in 1985 and a coupe version hit the scene in 1986. Design was an evolution of the R30, but it became bigger and was positioned as a more luxurious ride. The car got a new interior and improved suspension setup. It also introduced new technologies and features like the Hikers, a 4-wheel steering system. But what was really crucial is a new engine lineup. It became the first Skyline with the RB engine series. The first Autech Skyline was released 1988 after the limited homologation GTS-R was discontinued. Based on a coupe HR31 GTS model, it featured the RB20 engine and rear-wheel drive. The turbo was a Garrett TO4 fitted on an Autech special exhaust manifold. Additionally, the car got an oil cooler and an upgraded intercooler. The RB20 DT produced 210 horsepower and 245 newtons of torque, allowing it to sprint 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds and reach a top speed of 137 miles per hour, 225 kilometers per hour. Although the power and torque figures are similar to a stock GTS, it has better response and maximum torque is reached lower in the rev range. Externally, the Autech version was distinguished by a special grayish-brown paint, slightly different styling including taillights and a central garnish, specific grille and a spoiler. It also featured Volk Racing mesh rims and Autech logos on the trunk lid and front fenders as an addition to common Skyline GT badges. The interior had different upholstery and an Italvolanti steering wheel with S&S Engineering logo, as a nod to the Skyline's father Shinichiro Sakurai, engineer for the Prince Skyline and Autech's first president. In summary, while no major modifications were made, the GTS Autech was a well-balanced, low-volume car with special paint. Autech was cautious with their first version, but it was definitely the start of something bigger. With the next generation, Autech was ready to show off their out-of-the-box thinking. The R32 GTR was already a living legend, with its racing fame spreading faster than the straight-six RB26 engine could spool up its 2 turbos. Autech wasn't a racing division, that was clearly Nismo's territory. So when creating a second Autech signatured Skyline, they made an unexpected move by taking the championship-winning engine out of the GTR and cutting both of its turbochargers off. To exclude any racing ambitions, they paired it with an automatic 4-wheel drive transmission and put it all in a sedan body. And being a special one, it had to stand out, so they decided to give it a GTR front end, with the iconic grille, bonnet and front fenders. Typical Skyline Fender GT badges were changed for Autech signatures. There were only 201 units produced, and all of them were painted in a special olive green. Then here we go with significant features of this Skyline. A stamped S&S label on a front bumper, remember the Autech 31 Reels' steering wheel. 6 individual throttles for mad revving. 4-wheel steering for thrilling cornering. Unique interior, the seats remain the same as usual GTS, but with GTR grippy fabric and door trims. But of course the main feature is the engine. Naturally aspirated RB26, developed by Autech and S&S Engineering exclusively for this model. Being a technical sibling of a turbo RB26, it had some differences like a higher compression ratio, a crank balanced with connecting rods and a flywheel, and a surprisingly increased engine capacity, 30 cubic centimeters more. The same cylinder head was equipped with Autech cams and also polished to improve the flow. The output was 217 horsepower, which was 10% more than a later version of NA RB25 on R34 Skyline. The car could hit 134 miles per hour, 215 kilometers per hour. The 4-speed auto was the only transmission offered, with the argument that it was suitable for a high-quality GT car. Sounds controversial, especially considering how good auto trannies were in the 90s, but journalists at the time still praised its driving feel and responsiveness. However, it was predictably beaten in a quarter-mile test against the usual GTS-T. Back in 1992, the price tag of the Autech GTS4 Skyline was comparable to a base GTR, so for those seeking for performance, it wasn't the obvious choice. And finally, just a 201 example of a GTR-looking R32 sedan was ever produced. It's not that clear from the mid-2020s, but the first ever Skyline GTR was actually a sedan. Back in 1969, with the third generation called C10, the 4-door Skyline GTR was launched first, when a 2-door version came out with the facelift, and Nissan didn't offer a sedan body in all the following GTR generations. The 9th generation of the Skyline was introduced in 1993, and the GTR was revealed in 1995 with the announcement of the Le Mans program. This generation was quite fertile for some incredibly rare Skylines. The one-of-a-kind homologation special GTR LM 188 units of the Memorial GTR LM Limited, and of course the Nismo 400R limited to just 44 cars. So when the Skyline was about to celebrate its 40th anniversary in 1997, the first print Skyline was a 4-door back in 1957, Autech revealed its commemorative car, the R33 Skyline GTR Autech version, and there were 4 doors. Alright, knowing that keeping it a sedan was historically accurate, let's check out what's on the outside. It was already a facelift year, and the anniversary model got new fancy HID headlights, which are incredibly rare and expensive now. But Autech added a bit of uniqueness using an early model front lip. It also kept the car less aggressive, which makes some sense for a sedan, like an absence of spoilers too. But anyway, all the face panels could be easily bolted on and off, but the main difference from other 4-door models is a widened butt, which is quite complicated to recreate. Rear doors and quarter panels are wider for the same 25mm on each side. Rear valances are unique as well, made especially for this version, and the badges, there are 3 of them in the rear part, Autech version and 40 anniversary marks, and the main GTR badge, which is interestingly a little bit smaller than a coupe one, and it is another unique part made for this car only. Interior is almost identical to the coupe GTR with the same steering wheel, cluster and additional gauges, but the main feature is the back seat. It has a blister pillow between 2 seats separating rear passengers, so it's technically a 4-seater. Quite an uncommon move for a 90s sports sedan, 10 years before the Panamera. And when we're going to the tech side, it's the same R33 GTR, but still impressive, especially from a 2024 perspective. So, the powertrain, a 280 horsepower straight-six twin parallel turbo RB26 with 5-speed manual and active LSD rear diff. Nissan's signature 4-wheel drive ATISA system with a torque distribution, Super Hikas, an electronic 4-wheel steering system. The performance was on par with the coupe, 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, 14 seconds for a quarter mile, and a top speed of 156 miles per hour. Just 447 units were built in 1998, so the Autech version R33 is definitely one of the rarest GTRs out there. Now, we already know how awesome these Skylines were, but what about its existence in the real life? Well, not that great. The Skyline is a tuning icon, so finding an unmodified one is tough. I mean, the R31 is an 80s sports car, and finding a one that's even alive is a complicated task. And it's not just about rare versions, but every clean example of a turbo coupe is a kind of unicorn now. And what about the Autech with its 200 units, or the GTSR with just over 800? The GTSR, by the way, is a standout representative of Japanese iconic cars from the 80s and deserves its own episode. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. A good example of a two-door turbo R31 in Japan starts at $20,000 and up, and honestly, there aren't many offers out there, and to catch an Autech one, you should be very lucky. I hope that most of them are still alive, and not for sale just because it seems they've become historic gems in the last 5 or 7 years. But it's much better with the R32, you still can buy them in Japan. The price tag definitely goes up over the years, but what is encouraging is that these cars are mostly kept in factory condition. The RB26 is still NA, and the gearbox is still automatic. Examples like these start from $30,000 and up. I'm not sure if it makes sense to compare it to R32 GTR prices because the GTR is a significantly more thrilling car to drive, but it still looks like a chance to own a piece of Skyline history. No doubt that the R33 GTR is in high demand, and while the Autech version is slightly turning into a young-timer, for a piece of history seekers it has a big advantage over a coupe. Most owners keep it stock, just minor improvements maybe, but come on, it's still a Skyline. With less than 500 ever produced, the cheapest sedan is more expensive than a cheapest coupe. Prices above $100,000 are already common for the R33 GTR, but considering its rarity, could be a fair deal. The sedan GTR was the last Autech version of the Skyline, but it has a wagon-shaped sibling, the RB26-powered Stager 260 RS, which is a true unicorn too. But let's save it for the next video. The link will be somewhere here, so please make sure you're subscribed to the channel not to miss new videos. And what do you guys think about these rare Skylines? Really, there are less than 1,000 of them for the whole 3 generations. I've never met any of them in person, but it's exciting to see that mint condition unmodified examples are still available in the mid-2020s. Share your thoughts in the comments section. It's interesting. Truly hope you've discovered something new from my video. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. See you soon.